I'm speaking from a virtual visit to Vrindavan that I'll be conducting later, so this is a practice session for me. I selected some places, one of which is Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda, because it's very difficult to visit those places with a large number of devotees. So we'll go for the next while, 7-8 days, to each of the places, and I'll take you to a few of those places around Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda. And today it's going to be limited to some places around Radha Kunda. Yesterday, we spent some time discussing how sacred, I think it's worth mentioning it again, how sacred is this place. According to Rupa Goswami, who is our principal authority following Lord Chaitanya, it's the most sacred place in the universe. It's as sacred as Radharani. It is dear to Krishna as Radharani is to Krishna. Many very nice descriptions of its very special. So in order to enter into a very special place, our heart needs to be reverential and prayerful and respectful and recognize the space that we're entering into. So that's a heart-opening message. Here's a nice map where you'll see the places that we'll be visiting today. And up in the upper left, we're going to visit this place. On the map it's listed number 24. It's called Shiva-kunda. Shiva-kunda. I'll tell you what that place is in a moment. We're going to then go down this road, which you can't see, but we're going to go just to the corner of Radha Kunda, where Gopeshwara Mahadeva is guarding the Dham, etc. And then we're going to go to the side of Radha Kunda and hear the pastime of the appearance of Radha Kunda. Very beautiful. And lastly, we're going down here. This is right here in the corner of Radha Kunda. It's a place where the swing, one of the many places in Vrindavan, but a celebrated place where the swing festival was established regularly between Radha and Krishna. So that's what we're doing. Shiva-kunda, or sometimes called Shiva Pushkarini, has along its banks, as you see in the backside, a structure where there's a temple of Lord Shiva, and that Lord Shiva is particularly known as Rameshwara Mahadeva. He's the protector of the Dham. Kshetrapal Shiva. He's the protector of the Dham. And particularly he's protecting the northern portion of Radha Kunda. We know who Shiva is, and the word Kora means a holy place, and sometimes called Shiva Pushkarini means a lake, a small lake. This particular pastime connected with Shiva-kunda is found in Padma Purana, and it's a celebrated pastime of Radharani related to a jackal. Now, many of you know the pastime already. Many of you have heard it 100 times, so hear it 101 times, and it gets sweeter every time you hear it. Shiva-kunda is not far from Radha Kunda. So one day when Radharani was at Radha Kunda, she heard a loud screaming and crying of a jackal. And what had happened was, there was a jackal who the boys in the village detected. So they threw stones at the jackal and hit the jackal was hurt. And was fearful and started running and running, and the boys were chasing and chasing, and he entered into a burrow or a hole in the ground. And the boys crowded around the hole in the ground. They lit a fire around the hole in the ground. They were sticking sticks down the hole in the ground, and the smoke was going in, and the jackal was in such pain from being hit by the stones and coughing from the smoke, and was crying and crying. So loud that all the way to Radha Kunda, Radharani heard. And she turned to Lalita, her dearmost Sakhi, and said, "What's that? Please go find out what that is." So Lalita went, and she saw the boys circled around that hole in the ground, the burrow, with a big fire blazing. And she could very quickly understand what had happened. She scolded them very badly, and they were afraid of her, so they ran away. And she put out the fire, and she coaxed the jackal to come out. She picked the jackal up in her arms and carried the jackal to Radharani. And Radharani is saying, here in Vrindavan, around Radha Kunda, nobody suffers like this. So I accept you as one of my beloved gopi friends. May you always reside with me as one of my gopis. From jackal to a Radharani's gopi friend. Indicating how extreme is the compassion of our most compassionate Srimati Radharani. So we pray to Radharani for her compassion to engage us in Krishna's service. Inside, this is the deity of Lord Shiva that's being worshipped there. This is an aerial view of Radha Kunda on the left and Shiva-kunda on the right. And the place where we visited was somewhere in this region out here. So now we're going to go a little closer, just along the side of Radha Kunda. And we're going to visit Kundeshwara Mahadeva, just by the side of the Kund. Now, I remember the first time, it was a few years ago, I visited Radha Kunda, and the first thing I found there was a deity of Lord Shiva, and I was wondering, what's going on? This is Radha and Krishna's place. But he has a function to play in Radha and Krishna's place. His function is giving protection specifically to entrance only to qualified persons into the rasa dance, because there are many places where rasa dance was performed, and we're going to hear a little bit about the rasa dance performed here at Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda. Lord Shiva, during the daytime, is seen as you saw that other photograph, and then in the evening, the dressing looks a little different. You see the crescent moon on his head and the Ganga in his hair, but he certainly looked like a gopi because he has become a gopi. To participate in the rasa dance of Radha and Krishna, one requires becoming a gopi. Here's a very old painting, and doesn't show the whole of the rasa dance, but in the lower right side, that's Lord Shiva, along with some gopi musicians who were performing for the rasa dance, because one of the places where rasa dance is also performed is at Vangshivat. There's a very elaborate description of Lord Shiva becoming a gopi, or in order to participate in rasa dance, found in Garga Samhita. Garga Samhita is a text that was spoken by Garga Muni, and Garga Muni is narrating a conversation between Narada Muni. Garga Muni is narrating a discussion between Narada Muni and the king of Mithila. During Krishna's time, the king of Mithila was named Bahulashva. So it's a discussion primarily between those two. Garga Muni is just at the very beginning, and then we don't hear so much from Garga Muni, we hear between Narada and Bahulashva. And he's describing how Lord Shiva became a gopi. It begins with a Vaishnava with a very unusual name for a Vaishnava called Asuri. Asuri has certain meaning. Out of context, it means a demon or demoness. But he wasn't, he was a devotee. He's mentioned in the Bhagavatam in a few places with no detailed description, but Asuri Brahmana or Asuri Muni was instructed by Kapila Dev in the whole Sankhya philosophy, as were a few others mentioned in a few other places. So his name is presented in a number of places along with other exalted Vaishnavas. So somehow, Asuri Brahmana was a devotee of Radha Krishna. And on a place called Narada Tila, he was engaged in meditation of Radha and Krishna, and in his heart he was seeing a form of Radha and Krishna, according to Garga Samhita. And then all of a sudden his meditation broke. And he was startled. And he tried to enter into his meditation again, and nothing. So he was feeling very sad, separation from the darshan of Radha and Krishna. So he decided to go to Badrikashram, and maybe there he could get some solace for his feelings of separation from Radha Krishna by finding Narayan Rishi. But when he got to Badrikashram, he found that Narayan Rishi wasn't there. So he was perplexed. So then he went all the way in the Himalayas to Loka mountain. Some of you know about Vedic cosmology. In Loka mountain, that's one of the places where you can find Anantashesh. And he went to find Anantashesh, but he couldn't find Anantashesh. He was gone too. So he asked the servants of Anantashesh, "Where's Anantashesh?" And they just looked at him saying, "We don't know." So where has the Lord gone? He's not in his position as Narayan Rishi. He's not in Loka mountain. Where has he gone? So Asuri Muni went all the way to Svetadweep to make a similar inquiry from Lakshmi and Lord Vishnu. And they were also gone. Now he's really perplexed. What to do? So he went all the way to Vaikuntha. Asuri Muni has traveling capacities. And when he reached Vaikuntha, Lord Narayana and Lakshmi, they were also vacant. A sign, out to lunch or something. They weren't to be found anywhere. Now, our ISKCON commentary about this is, there's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, whenever Krishna appears, this is Krishna Das Kaviraj, writing, whenever the personality of Godhead Krishna appears in this world, all of the other forms of the Lord, mentioning by names these very forms of the Lord, they manifest themselves within him. Now, that they seem to be absent was only apparent. It's to enhance the pastime that the Lord wanted to have with Asuri Muni. So then he went all the way to Goloka. And when he reached Goloka, he knew he would be able to find Krishna there. Because in the forests of Vrindavan, Krishna is inseparable. He searched everywhere, searched everywhere. He couldn't find Krishna. He was greatly distressed. He asked some of the cowherd boys, "Where has he gone?" They smiled and said, "In the material world, just as he appeared as Prishnigarbha and Vamana, you'll find him there in Vrindavan." So he went to Vrindavan and he searched everywhere and searched everywhere and he searched everywhere and he searched everywhere and he couldn't find him. So he went all the way to Lord Shiva, the abode of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, he found, was in meditation. And his presence broke the meditation of Lord Shiva. "What can I do for you? You've come a long distance. Great austerity, great difficulty." And he explained his situation, his plight. He said, "Oh, he's gone to the material world in his form, appearing during this particular yuga cycle. I was planning to go there. If you like, we can go together." So Asuri Muni was in good company. They went together. And similarly, they searched everywhere, searched everywhere. Finally, they found some gopis, and they said, "You must know, where is Krishna?" And they just smiled. Respectful, but giggling, as young girls will sometimes do. And the two looked at each other and, what did we do wrong? Why are they giggling at us? And they're looking bewildered like that. They just made them giggle more. And then one of them came forward and said, "The reason you can't find him is here, where Radha and Krishna are performing rasa dance. Only those in female forms are allowed to enter." And so they looked at each other and looked at the spokesperson amongst the gopis and said, "We have male forms, what should we do?" And the reply was, only those who are very qualified, if they're granted the blessings of the holy Dham and they're given a female form, they may enter and see the rasa dance. So what to do? She gave an indication. Nearby is Manasa Sarovar. We'll take you there, and you take your bath in a prayerful mood, aspiring to participate in the rasa dance of Krishna, and your bodies will transform into gopis. So they did, and the two of them came out as gopis. There's Gopeshwara Mahadeva, and those of you who have been to Vangshivat, you know by the side of the Vangshivat, there's Gopeshwara Mahadeva wearing serpents around her neck. But she was placed as a guardian of the rasa dance. When she came in the vicinity of the rasa dance, Krishna saw her, and immediately he stopped and approached them both in their gopi forms and said, "Much difficulty you've undergone to come this far. Please accept some blessing from me." And their request was, just seeing you is our purpose, but if you want to give some blessing, please allow us to eternally reside here in Vrindavan with you and serve you in this way. So he said, so be it. But the service was, you stand just outside the circle of the Rasa dance, and you only let qualified people to enter. And so when you visit Radha Kunda, it's a good thing to do to visit Gopeshwara Mahadeva first, because tour guides will take you there first, and you offer prayers to Gopeshwara Mahadeva for entrance into the Dham. There has to be sincerity and a specific appeal, because otherwise physically you can go there, but spiritually you won't go there. And you can go there without being in a lady form, so it's bona fide. But you need his blessings. There's a similar passage found in relation to Narada Muni. Maybe you know this pastime at Kusum Sarovar. There's two versions, and I'm going to narrate both of those two versions. One of those two versions is found in a writing by Narahari Chakravarti. Narahari Chakravarti was a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti, and he wrote a book, celebrated book, called Bhakti Ratnakar. Bhakti Ratnakar is not as erudite as Chaitanya Charitamrita, but along the same mood is the description of the followers of Lord Chaitanya after Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And in Bhakti Ratnakar, there's a description of what you see on the screen. It's Narada Muni is said to have written Narada Bhakti Sutra nearby Kusum Sarovar, in a place called Narada Kunda, and around Narada Kunda is Naradavan. Under the instruction of Lord Shiva, Narada was undergoing austerities in this area. And its purpose, Narada's purpose, was to see the pastimes of Krishna. Lord Shiva had advised him like that. He was doing his austerities. And along came Lalita, who recognized who he was and recognized his purpose. And she took him to Kusum Sarovar, told him, you take bath in Kusum Sarovar, and when you come out as Naradi, then you'll be able to participate and see Krishna's pastimes. So that's what Narada Muni did. He came out as Naradi, and I don't have images here with me today. I think I'll add it for the future. When we recently made a visit to all around Govardhan Hill, we visited Narada Kunda, and there is a Naradi deity. So Narada Muni was able to participate in Radha Krishna's Rasa Leela that's performed in this area. In different areas, Rasa Leela is performed. And again, under the advice of Lalita, he entered into Narada Kunda, and he came out as Narada. That's where he did his writing after experiencing those pastimes of rasa dance. There's another scriptural reference that's corroborated in Padma Purana, Skanda Purana, and Narada Purana. And the narration is slightly different, but it ends up the same. In those three texts, same basic message. Narada was told that Krishna had made his appearance in Vrindavan, so he was very eager to see Krishna's appearance, Krishna's activities in Vrindavan. He went to Vrindavan and searched and searched and searched. Couldn't find Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Vrindadevi knew of his intention. Vrindadevi came before him and told him that these pastimes will be possible for him to experience by taking bath in Kusum Sarovar. So he did what she recommended, and he came out as Naradi. And the Narada Pancharatra specifically says the message to be learned from this pastime is that a great sage such as Narada must hanker for the opportunity to get the mercy of Krishna's devotees in order to enter into Krishna's pastimes. It's a Raganuga bhakti message found not in the writings of Rupa Goswami, but in the writings of Narada Purana. This Raganuga bhakti is very much detailed in a writing by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now this is like a 501 course. I haven't read the book. I know some persons that have, but it's very esoteric, and it's giving teachings on how to practically follow Raganuga bhakti. Raga Vartma Chandrika. Vishwanath was known as a Rasika Bhakta. Yesterday, we discussed about Vishwanath Chakravarti, great personality in our disciplic line. So here he is, Maheshwara, Gopeshwara Mahadeva. This is at Radha Kunda, and this is the same deity dressed in the similar fashion at Vangshivat, because he has a similar function at Vangshivat. And just outside is the deity of Yogamaya. So all of these personalities and the deities have some place in our lives as Vaishnavas, seeking their favor and blessings. Now, let's go back to Radha Kunda. And as you go along Radha Kunda, you'll find many sweet shops like this. And it looks like the sweet maker, he enjoys eating his sweets. And there's a whole big display. And there's shop after shop like this. So if you're ever visiting Radha Kunda, leave a little room for carrying some sweets back to traveling with, or back to wherever you came from. Radha Kunda Mahaprasad, offered to your deities. And then, as we go a little bit further, this is our first view of Radha Kunda. You can see there's different ways of looking at the map of Radha Kunda, Shiva-kunda. The one that we saw, it was inverted. So this is showing on the upper right, but our entrance in that other image was the lower left. And when you go to Vrindavan during Kartik month, you're not going to see the vegetable stand there. You're going to see mobs of people moving by Radha Kunda. But in off-season, this is what it looks like. And if you look very closely, on the opposite side, that's Sangam. That's the connecting place between Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda. And this is, in relation to Radha Kunda, I want to spend a little bit of time describing how Radha Kunda appeared, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and our scriptures. The place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first discovered Radha Kunda is in a section of the Govardhan area called Ati. And Ati is a corruption of Aristasura. And that's where he found Radha Kunda, and how Radha Kunda became manifest at that place where Aristasura was killed is described in the scriptures in this way. Aristasura was sent by Kamsa to destroy Krishna and destroy the whole of the village of Vrindavan. And he was really big. it said he was so big that his tail moved the clouds in the sky. And when he walked, the whole earth shook. And he didn't just walk, he was running. So the whole place was moving like anything when he came into Vrindavan. He did several things, but one of the things that he did was he terrified the gopis. So what are the gopis doing? They're taking shelter of Krishna. How are they taking shelter of Krishna? They're embracing a tamal tree and calling out Krishna's name. Please come help us, oh Krishna. So hearing the pleas of the gopis and other residents of Vrindavan, Krishna came forward and slapped his arms, ready for a fight with this giant bull. And the cowherd boys, they had already seen Krishna's power, so they're not worried at all. They're hiding behind rocks and bushes, but they just want to see the fun of Krishna handling this giant, fierce bull. And when Krishna made this motion like that, like, come on, big guy, I'll take you on. He was really angry. He started snorting and steam came out of his nostrils and he tilted his head with his horns down and came charging at Krishna at full speed. And Krishna moved out of the way and he stumbled. And he came running at Krishna again, and Krishna grabbed him by the horns, and Krishna threw him to the ground, and Krishna broke off the horn and smashed him with his own horns and punched him and kicked him just like a wet rag until finally he lay dead. And when Ristasura was killed, Krishna wanted to tell the gopis the good news because they called for him to help. But then comes the nice story. Krishna was, I've done a good deed. Please say thank you and congratulations and well done. And Radharani said, don't come near us. And Krishna was surprised. Why are you saying like that? You called for help and I came and look at. He said, you killed a male cow. You killed a bull. Krishna said he wasn't a bull. He was a demon. And Radharani said, well, when Indra killed Vritrasura, he was a demon, but he was a brahmana. So he had to undergo austerities. So if you want to come anywhere near us, you're going to have to undergo austerities. Very severe austerities for killing a bull. So Krishna nodded and said, well, what austerities do you think I should undergo? This is a very serious offense. You're going to have to bathe in all the sacred waters of the entire universe before you come near us. Krishna smiled. And he summoned the personification of all the sacred rivers of the entire universe. And very quickly they came. Palms folded. Some service. What can we do for you? Krishna smiled. He took his heel, made a large stamping of a hole in the ground with his heel, said, please fill up this hole with your sacred waters. So they transformed themselves into sacred waters and filled up that kund, and Krishna took a sacred bath in Shiva-kunda, now fully purified. And then Krishna said, so, I purified myself, but what about you? How many sinful activities have you done? You know, when you accuse somebody falsely, you accrue the same offense as the person who you falsely accused of. So you're going to have to purify yourselves. Well, what's the offense? Same thing you recommended for me, bathe in all the sacred waters of all the universe. And there's two different versions. One version is this, Radharani said, no problem. We'll create our own with her bangle. She took her bangle off her arm, held it up in the air, looked at the gopis. They knew exactly what to do. They began digging Radha Kunda very, very quickly. According to one narration, 1 hour. The whole of Radha Kunda was dug. And so, what about the water? If you want, I can make a little connection between my kund and your kund. No way. You've deposited all your sinful reactions over there for killing a bull. That's not going to come into my kunda. What are you going to do? We're going to go to Manasi Ganga and bring buckets of water from Manasi Ganga and fill up my kund. So the gopis made a human chain, passing empty buckets this way, filled buckets that way, filled up Radha Kunda, and she took her sacred bath in Radha Kunda. Now there's another version that said, Krishna said, if you like, I can ask the personified sacred rivers to manifest themselves and fill up your kund. So that's another version, they say, that she did like that. And she took her bath. So there's the Sangam, and if you look closely, you can see there is a place in between the two kunds where the water between Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda flow. That little open area here. And this Sangam, there are some temples, little temples, altars, where it's said that Radha and Krishna would sit and enjoy their pastimes together. So that's the appearance of Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda. And Radharani finally said, you know what? Even if you've killed 100 Aristasuras, I believe if I take bath in your sacred Shiva-kunda, I'll become purified. And Krishna said that by taking bath in your kund, everyone will become dear to you. So there's this area, which we're going to see as we go further. Over here, in this direction over here, there's an area that's in between the two kunds. And many exalted personalities in our disciplic line and so forth had their bhajan kutirs in that area, and daily they would take their bath in Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda. Raghunath Das Goswami was one. Daily he would bathe in both kunds 3 times, along with 1,000 obeisances to the Vaishnavas, because he was such an exalted person. Everyone wanted to pay obeisances to him. But he would pay obeisance to them. And he kept count 1,000 times. Here's a little story. For many, many years, I was a brahmachari. And then something happened. I didn't even know what sannyas meant. I mean, I had some idea, but I was told by my GBC, guess what? What? You've been approved to take sannyas. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what the process was. And so I said, why should I take sannyas? Because I had observed, this is just personal commentary, I had observed young men real eager to get recognition by taking sannyas, and I found it disgusting. And, they weren't qualified, and they were like, I want that honor and distinction and position. Thought, forget it. So I was told, you've been recommended for sannyas. I said, no. I said, why? I said, for it'll increase your preaching. I said, I've got more preaching to do than I can handle. I don't need more preaching. And so then I was told, oh, so you're attached, right? And I didn't know what he meant. I thought about it later. He meant, I'm thinking maybe I'll get married. So I didn't take sannyas. Finally, I said, people were pestering me. Okay, I'll take sannyas. Took sannyas, and then something very strange happened. As soon as I had a danda in my hand and a different cloth, people were paying obeisances. My whole brahmachari training was you pay obeisances. So I was paying obeisances, and they were telling me, no, you don't pay obeisances. I said, what? I've been trained to pay obeisances, so I'm going to pay obeisances. And then finally I got the idea. I understood. It's not obeisances to me. It's obeisances to the ashram and the super soul and all those nice things. And it's beneficial for those who are not sannyasis to have special regard for those who are sannyasis and sannyasis for other sannyasis. So I just got over it, just like, okay, it's not for me, it's for the pure, it's for this varnashram system. Let me just, if I can accept this function or role. So, those who take their sacred bath at Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda are very special personalities. And Raghunath Das Goswami was one such special personality, and although he was the most revered during his time, along with Krishna Das Kaviraj, but he was a sannyasi, he would pay obeisances 1,000 times and take his bath in Radha Kunda and Shiva-kunda 3 times daily for the purpose of becoming a dear associate of Radharani. So becoming a dear associate of Radharani is something very special. This is a nice painting of their very youthful pastimes together. Sometimes in the rainy season, everything is flooded. You can't see the distinction between the two kunds. This is from Rupa Goswami's writing. Where is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? Here's another photograph showing the Sangam underwater and that place where there's a little structure. That's where they would sit together and enjoy their pastimes. Here's an artist's depiction of what it may have looked like before it looks like today. And in tomorrow morning's class, I'll describe Raghunath Das Goswami's excavation of Radha Kunda so that it looks like this today. On the far left, this is Janava Baitak, that's their sitting place. This is where the Gopinath temple is. This is where Raghunath Das Goswami's samadhi is. And going along this way is where the Sangam is, heading this direction. Radha Kunda. And the last place we're going to visit, this is the place where Radha and Krishna swing. Now, when I first went, which was a few years ago, about 48 years ago, there was a tree, and the tree died. So where the tree was is where they would bring the swing during Julan Yatra time. When the tree died, they replaced the tree with this structure, and so there's the structure, right here, pictured here. And the first deity to be swung during Julan Yatra is the deities of Raghunath Das Goswami, because they were the first Radha Krishna deities installed at Radha Kunda, and we'll hear that history tomorrow also. Many places where Rasa dance occurred, many places where the swing festival occurred, and this is one of those places. And there's a zillion paintings of the swing festival pastime. Artists have loved this since the beginning of time. Some of these are modern. This is Vishnu Das, very accomplished disciple of Prabhupada artist, and others and others and others. So that's our visit to Radha Kund Part 2, and there's only 6 more such visits to places around Radha Kund. And if you're interested, I don't know the dates, but sometime in the middle part of November, I'm going to make an entire visit to all the places to many places in Vrindavan for 9 days, along with Bhakti Chaitanya Swami and Dina Bandhu, all virtual. You can join us if you like, if time permits. Shri Shri Radha Kund ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi Haribo. I don't know how we're doing with time. Is there time for some discussion? It's 2:00. Any comments or questions? Yeah, in the back. Can we give you the microphone so people that are remote can hear what you're saying? Thank you.
Maharaj, thank you so much for taking us virtually to Radha Kund. With all the pandemic, we are still not even thinking going physically, but very grateful for whatever presentation you made, so we can actually experience, this whole Kartik. This is the first Sunday feast in Kartik this year, so we started with auspicious introduction of Radha Kund and the places around Radha Kund. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you for your appreciation. Over here.
Thank you once again, Maharaj, for taking us virtually into the land of Vrindavan. On one of the screens, there was a deity of Yog Maya.
Yeah.
And it always clicks. So, is this a more generic way of presenting? Sometimes we see Yog Maya is mentioned as Subhadra Mai, and then sometimes internal potency or Yog Maya also refers to like Radha Rani. So, is it like a categorical way of representing two energies, Maharaj?
And there's a third, Purnamasi.
Oh.
Well, Radharani's position is not Yogamaya, mask. Radharani's position, thank you all for masking up. Yeah, because, I was thinking, it's really nice to be able to be in the temple again, but it's also nice to be careful. And so thank you all for being careful. Radharani is the Hladini Shakti portion of Krishna's spiritual potency, otherwise known as Chit Shakti. So these are all like very confidential internal potencies of Krishna, and there's categories. Yogamaya is one of those categories. Yogamaya dealing with Krishna outside of Vrindavan is Subhadra. Yogamaya inside Vrindavan is Purnamasi. And Yogamaya is the category. And she has her deity form also. So those who worship, they could worship Purnamasi or worship the Yogamaya deity as Purnamasi, but she directly participated in Krishna's pastimes to assist in the pastimes or orchestrate the pastimes. And then she has sub-potencies. It's nomenclature, but the Yogamaya potency is personified, and she Yogamaya personified takes different forms according to the Lord's purposes and his places of pastimes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Okay. Thank you so much.
Just behind you, right behind you. He's got his mask off already.
Maharaj, please forgive me, I don't wear a mask. I'm sorry.
You don't wear masks?
I just forgot, I'm sorry.
Well, we can get you one.
So,
We'll just, as soon as you're done, we'll give you one, and you can
thank you.
mask up. Thank you. After. You can ask first.
So my question is, Maharaj, we say that Krishna's pastimes are eternal. So when Narada Muni become Naradiya Gopi or Shiva become Shiva Gopi, so are these eternal forms or this is just for that particular pastimes? How we can understand?
How does time work when pastime's eternal? I'm just abstracting your question into an abstract. There's a pastime that appears to be an event within time. How do we understand events that are within time as eternal? So pastimes may manifest and then not be manifest, but the pastime is eternal. It requires an understanding of how time works. That's not easy to understand how time works. Because time, sorry for the philosophical answer, but that's what you've asked. So, time is eternal, and the pastimes of Krishna are eternal. Krishna is eternal, his pastimes eternal. And how does it work that it's eternal? When it appears that it comes and it goes. Just like Krishna's appearance and then he disappears. Let's say Krishna's appearance. So if you're really interested in this, read Jiva Goswami's Bhagavad Sandarbha, and he explains it. It's not just tongue-in-cheek eternal, but it's literally eternal. In the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, the upper Golok we'll call it, there's no birth pastime. In his Boma Lila, his pastime of appearances is eternal. And how it works is, you've heard Prabhupada give this example. Somewhere the sun is always rising. Or St. Negali, is there some place where on this earth planet where the sun is not rising? It's rising and then it's rising and then it's rising and then it's rising. The sun is always rising. Similarly, as Krishna is appearing in this Boma, in this earthly realm, he's getting ready to appear in another realm, another universe somewhere. And then another universe, he's getting ready to get ready, and then he appears. And so in one day of Brahma, the whole cycle goes on, where Krishna's appearance is going on eternally. And then subsequent to that, all the other pastimes, and then his departure pastime, and it's eternally going on somewhere. In that sense, you follow what I just said? In that sense, this pastime with Narada is eternal. But we experience it as not. Because we're not conscious within the internal potency or the eternal time potency. We're conscious of the past, present, future time. So it looks like it's temporary, but it's actually eternal pastime. And the pastime is for Krishna's pleasure. It's not just for Narada's pleasure, it's for Krishna's pleasure. And those that have that sense for Krishna's pleasure, because that's what Lalita had said, only those who are qualified can achieve this. And here's how. So, does that address your question? It's a bit of a stretch, and for people with material consciousness, they go, oh, rubbish. And for those who are devotees, they go, Krishna's expanding of time and space, it's very flexible for Krishna, for his pastimes. So he invests in Narada a capacity to perform this pastime, and Narada is eternally performing that pastime. for Krishna's pleasure somewhere. And the details may differ from place to place, because variety is the mother of enjoyment. So the varieties may be different from place to place, but the pastime is a Krishna's pleasure pastime. And all of his pastimes. Something related to, it's different than your question, but related to your question is Brihat Bhagavatamrita. You familiar with that book? That's at least a 301, if not a 401 literature. It's very elevated literature. And in the evening class, while I'm here in Detroit, I'm going to be speaking about Krishna's killing of demons or subduing of demons. And this evening we're going to speak about Kaliya. So in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami, way up there in the luminaries of our disciplic line, describes Kaliya comes back again. After he's sent off to Ramanaka Lake, which is in the Bhagavatam, and Brihat Bhagavatamrita comes back second time around. And second time around, what does Krishna do? He not only dances on the hoods of Kaliya, but it's a dance stage, and he has a rasa dance with the gopis on top of the hoods of Kaliya. And not only that, according to Brihat Bhagavatamrita, I'm going to read the section, it's really fantastic. He takes the shawls from the wives of the Kaliya serpent, he ties them together in ropes, he puts the ropes together in the nostrils of Kaliya, and he goes riding Kaliya. Now that's not in the Bhagavatam. It's in Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So then, it's a head-scratching time. What's this? First it says this, then it says that. So is it this or that? Our little binary processor called the mind doesn't compute. It's either this or it's that. How can it be both? In Krishna's pastimes, not only they're not bound by time, they're eternal, but they're also fully variegated. Is Krishna limited or unlimited? Easy. He's unlimited. Okay, if he's unlimited, he can do things in a limited manner, right? Well, my little binary processor doesn't quite handle that. It's either this or that. It's a 1 or a 0. That's what computes in my binary processor. So what's beyond 1 or a 0? It's unlimited. So sometimes the answer to those things is, it's a different day of Brahma or Kalpa Beta. So sometimes Krishna appears and does this, and sometimes Krishna appears and does that. And there's another explanation, and that is those perfected souls, like Sanatana Goswami, they have the unlimited Krishna exhibits a pastimes within their heart, which he then writes. And it's not fiction or mythology. Get used to it. Krishna is inconceivable. That means our little binary processor can't get around, encompass Krishna. But I'm used to, getting around things and, okay, now I got it. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna is not like that. Kaliya wrapped Krishna up in his coils. The residents of Vrindavan were in a state of terrible despair. Usually it's they're in difficulty, they call Krishna. Now Krishna's in difficulty, who are we going to call? And seeing that he let it go on for hours, and when they were practically dying, Then he made himself big and big and big and big and so big, he just boop, popped out of his coils. He was trying to contain Krishna. He couldn't contain Krishna. He was bigger than anything. So Krishna is bigger than anything. We can think, okay, now I got it. And then Krishna becomes bigger than our little binary processor can handle. And he's done unlimited things in unlimited ways. And that's part of his glory. It's part of our appreciation of the Supreme. Within Krishna is everything. It's not limited. Everything is without limit. So we enjoy hearing the activities of the unlimited. How wonderful is our Krishna. That's what the cowherd boys would do. How wonderful is our Krishna. What's for lunch? Oh, so the devotees can, let's go take prasadam. Time and space cannot encompass Krishna. So his pastimes are eternal. And those devotees who he engages with him in eternal pastimes, those are eternal. And they're unlimited, because they can vary from time to time. No problem. Little mind-expanding exercise. Anything else? You have something? We have something online? Online? Let's read the online.
This is from Divya Tirtha Das Prabhu. He is requesting that you have shared how Lord Shiva and Narada were able to enter Rasa dance. However, Mother Lakshmi was not allowed to enter. How do we understand this?
Oh, easy. She had to let go of the conception that I'm Lakshmi. One who holds a conception of themselves cannot enter the rasa dance. They were willing, Narada and Shiva. No. Nobody tapped her Lakshmi on the shoulder and said, hey, you can enter the rasa dance if you adopt the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, but she was in the mood of the goddess of fortune, which is not the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. To get the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, you need the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan, which Narada got and Shiva got. They were happy. It was in both cases, it was gopis. In one case, it was Lalita herself. In another case, it was one of the gopis around the rasa dance. But you get the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan, and you can enter into the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. And without that mercy, you can't. That's how. Okay. You have something?
Actually, when you're saying we have to let go the conception, like Lakshmi has to give up that she's goddess of fortune. But in the case of Lord Shiva, here we see, like even though he transformed into female form, he's still wearing snake in his.
Yeah, why not? That's his paraphernalia.
Okay. Thank you.
You can take your bead bag with you to the spiritual world. It's okay. That's what knows the Hare Krishna guys. They have that thing on their hand.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
I was in China, and without going into it too much, we went to a really remote place because we didn't want to have a security problem. And the organizers forgot to tell the volunteers who were setting up, don't carry your bead bag. Because people in the village, they'll see you walking around with a bead bag and they'll wonder, what's these guys doing? So one of the village people walked up to a devotee and said, did you hurt your hand? And all your people are with you. They have the same, they got this bandage on their hand. What's that? It's how it's an ISKCON paraphernalia thing. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.